Hey everybody, Mo here. Today we're talking about the MORE Act being considered in the House, some news coming out of New York and New Jersey, a product recall that affects Curaleaf, and a couple other things. Welcome to the Monday, September 27th edition of Mary Jane Markets, a show covering the developing news of the North American cannabis sector every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I also analyze a few of its operators: Cresco Labs, Curaleaf, Green Thumb Industries, and TrueLeaf. Let's take a quick look at the market today. The international ETFs were up around 2 to 3%, while MSOS finishing the day up less than that, just shy of 1%. Of the companies we track here on the show, Cresco and GTI, the Chicago crew, finished up today, with Cresco being the only one going on a little bit of a tear here, up over 4%. TrueLeaf finished off flat after bouncing around a little bit. I didn't see any news about them today, but this sector is no stranger to volatility. Curaleaf did have some negative press today, which we'll talk about, but that does explain the morning sell-off. And all of that is against a backdrop of an essentially flat S&P and NASDAQ. They were down slightly, but less than 0.5%. First up, starting broadly again before moving on to company-specific news, I wanted to bring up this article I saw over the weekend from Marijuana Moment about banking institutions servicing cannabis operators, since banking has been a topic of conversation lately. We've spoken about this before, and Marijuana Moment periodically writes about this as updated numbers come out from FinCEN. So FinCEN reporting this data kind of late. This is through the end of June, and there's only a few days left of September. But Kyle Yeager reports, as of June 30th, there were 706 financial institutions that had filed requisite reports saying they were actively serving cannabis clients. And that's up slightly from last quarter. So for the new listeners or newer investors to the sector, I wanted to touch on this to bring to your attention that there are banks out there that provide some banking services to cannabis operators, such as depository accounts. But obviously, this is a small number of banks and credit unions, and it doesn't nearly service every corner of the US. But when you look at the balance sheet of a large operator, which we do here on this show, those millions of dollars aren't in Heisenberg pallets of cash. So as you're investing in these larger public companies, keep in mind that these businesses are not operating purely in cash, despite what you may hear out there. And in my opinion, the real benefit for investors and to operators, what's good for them is good for us, right? The real benefit of safe banking passing is access to the capital markets. It's access to large institutions like investment banks that will buy corporate debt from these operators at reasonable rates, not the 7 or 9% interest, sometimes even higher than that I've seen. I'm talking more like 3%, which is the average across all other industries. If the Safe Banking Act allows access to those capital markets, these operators can retire those higher interest rate loans with cheaper ones, which is something we've seen Cresco and Curaleaf do this year. It has an immediate impact on net income by way of reduced interest payments. It's a huge value unlock. Shifting over to government policy updates, Marijuana Moment also reporting on the 24th that one of the bills that the House Judiciary Committee will be reviewing this Wednesday will be the MORE Act. This bill is sponsored by the Judiciary Committee's chairman, Gerald Nadler. So this has to go through that same process we discussed with the Safe Banking Act. I'm sure you're all familiar with. First it has to make it out of this committee, then it goes to the House, then the Senate, then the President. One notable difference between this and the Safe Banking Act that we discussed the other day is that this is a standalone bill. This is not an amendment to anything. And other than breaking news on this article doesn't have much more information or insight on the topic. The rest of it sort of just rehashes recent news. And I don't have much to add on this either. I haven't seen much else about it out there. The CAOA is still out there on the Senate side, and these are sort of competing bills. So maybe as we get closer to Wednesday or after Wednesday's meeting, we'll have more to talk about. I just wanted to put it on your radar. On the state policy front, my first update is from New York. I'll keep this short. I wouldn't say this is critical information, but I've seen it now in a number of places, and with New York being the third largest market in the country, it might affect how you think about the market in the state in a positive way. The new governor Governor Kathy Hochul has been making a lot of progress with the state's program, especially compared with her predecessor. And at the Business Council of New York State's annual meeting last Friday, she was very supportive of the industry. I'll link this below if you're interested, but I'll highlight this quote that Marijuana Moment picked out. And shout out to Marijuana Moment here. Please go donate to their Patreon. I believe Tom Engel and Kyle Yeager do this full time. And they're always breaking news and staying on top of stuff for us there. So this quote that I liked from Governor Hochul says, "So count me in as an ally, someone who's going to be there for you. We'll fight for you to make sure that we do not lose out to any competition, whether it's in the space of cannabis, where I believe there's thousands and thousands of jobs and new industries to be created that we're not even focused on." So she's making her stance very clear here. And she brings up how many jobs will be created. She is a politician after all. And I don't even think this is an exaggeration here. In fact, this is a great talking point for all politicians. I've recently seen articles about how many jobs are being created by this industry. Here's one from Business Insider. This was published over the weekend. And as people are leaving jobs that they hate, we are hiring. And it looks like this is from Leafly's 2021 job report, where they say there are now 321,000 Americans working in the legal cannabis industry, more than those who are EMTs and paramedics, aircraft pilots, or electrical engineers. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there. So this governor is very supportive of the industry in New York, and I think that's been evident in the actions she's taken since she's been in office. And I was reading in the New York Post, and MM's also got it here, that one of the changes she's made is rumored to be that she has dismissed Norman Birnbaum, who was the director of cannabis programs under her predecessor. So like I said, nothing related to investments here per se, but I think news that influences how we think about this market. Our next update comes from New Jersey. During an interview with News 12 last week, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy says that he expects that recreational cannabis will be available in 2022. Specifically, he's quoted here saying first or second quarter from a medical dispensary, and then a little bit behind that from a standalone retail shop. As a reminder, New Jersey legalized at the beginning of this year, so they're trying to get their rec program going. This is all just part of what makes investing in this sector interesting. Each state, each market is unique. I know here in Illinois, people were lined up on January 1st at dispensaries that were ready to serve them. Obviously, New Jersey is taking a different approach, and that's why it's important to keep tabs on these state programs. If any of you were counting on any New Jersey rec sales in your models, it's time to update them now. The only piece of company-specific news I have for you today is on Curaleaf, which, as we mentioned earlier, had a sell-off this morning, and this is probably why. The state of Oregon issued an expanded recall on a product from the Select brand, which is owned by Curaleaf. Now, this came out on Friday, but I didn't see anything until today. So it looks like there was a labeling screw-up. So back on September 21st, there was a hemp tincture recall which was sold by Curaleaf, and consumers reported that it was making them high, even though it was supposed to be a CBD-only product. Sorry that I didn't see this recall on the 21st either. I don't think anyone reported on it since that whole week was overshadowed by safe banking. Anyway, on Friday, they expanded their recall to include a Select THC product, which upon testing found that it does not contain any detectable THC. So I'm assuming this was a labeling or packaging mix-up here, but the good thing about this industry being so regulated is that they can easily identify exactly which batch this dealt with, and then they've reached out to the retailers that this went to using a tracking system. So there are definitely some benefits to regulation. I think Oregon and Curaleaf should take this very seriously. I'm sure they will, and I'm sure they'll put something in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again. All right, moving on to a segment called Things Happened. Forbes released a short video over the weekend titled The Making of New York's $150 million Cannabis Campus. Of course, we discussed this New York facility a week or two ago when they broke ground on it. And even though this is titled as such, it doesn't really talk about that planned facility. I found this to be more of a nice short video on Ben Kovler's background and Green Thumb's branding. So I'll link this below if you're interested. It's really short, under 3 minutes. I'll also link my episode below in case you're interested in more details on this New York facility. I also wanted to bring to your attention a Benzinga conference that'll be hosted on, I believe, October 14th and 15th, and Kim Rivers is one of the participants. They do sell tickets to it though, and I think it's under $30. All right, that is all for today. You can follow and talk to me on Twitter at MJMarkets. I also have a Patreon set up at patreon.com/MaryJaneMarkets. Please like, share, subscribe if you liked the content and you want to keep seeing more of it on your newsfeed. Thanks.